Despite the pandemic and the high unemployment rate, one local trade and vocational school did a record number of graduate placements last year. Brian Burns reports at the same time the Coastal Bend had record unemployment.
For Corpus Christi specifically, about 70% of their enrollments were in the allied health sector, which, as you know, during the pandemic became an essential job.
Nikki England is president of the Austin-based Southern Careers Institute Texas Trade and Vocational School, which has 8 campuses in the state, including Corpus Christi. England says, as with most schools, the fear of high tuition costs should not stop a potential student from looking for help.
A lot of people have a misconception that either school is going to put them in tons of debt or it costs too much money out of pocket. And my advice there is always just have the conversation.
The 8 campuses report 86% of graduates obtained jobs in their field of study last year, compared to only 84% the year before. At the Corpus Christi campus, there was a record placement rate of 89% during the past year, compared to an average 75% placement rate. Unfortunately, unemployment at the Coastal Bend soared to more than 15% during the pandemic.
Well, when the pandemic began, we saw the unemployment rate jump up to around 15%, and that was in April. At the lowest since then, it's been around 8.7%, and it's been a roller coaster since the pandemic hit, up and down from month to month.
Zena Mercado with Workforce Solutions of the Coastal Bend says they offer a lot of free or low-cost education and job training for the local labor force, and they're optimistic about the future employment numbers.
Right now, we're hovering around 9.6% in the Coastal Bend. And we hope to see that number decrease going forward with the amount of training opportunities that are available and people returning back to work.
While there is no crystal ball prediction, experts hope a decline in COVID cases will lead to a resurgence in hiring across the state and the Coastal Bend. Brian Burns, 3 News.